then I started stumbling on this carnivore thing. It started as low carb. And I also stumbled on this thing called the Bredesen protocol, which is created by this guy named Dr. Dale Bredesen in California. And he's been able to reverse Alzheimer's and dementia in a couple hundred people. There's a lot to it. It's not just diet and exercise. There's supplements, there's oral health, there's hormone therapy. It's sort of a complete optimizing everything in your body, and then it allows your nerve cells to grow back and start getting better cognition. Doesn't cure it. If you fall off the protocol, you're going to have Alzheimer's come back, but it greatly improves your cognitive health if you do it right. So I found out about that in maybe 2018 or so. From then on, I was asking families, you want to try this out? They're like, yeah, we have a neurologist already. It's okay. I'm like, well, this is a lot different. And they're like, no, we're fine. So it was very hard to convince them. And I've heard of a home, an assisted living home out in San Diego that was doing this. And they were open. They actually opened up in February of 2020, like the worst possible time you could open up. And I went to their grand opening, and Dr. Bredesen came down to sort of help them with their grand opening, meet everyone. But they're making tremendous strides. It's run by a naturopathic doctor, and everyone who goes in there is on the Bredesen protocol. So they have it very structured. Well, I don't, but I finally found someone recent. So part of that Bredesen protocol is the ketogenic low carb diet. So I'm like, well, we can do that. And so we've done that, and we're seeing lots of improvement. We're seeing A1C levels drop down. We're seeing people going off insulin, or going from insulin to metformin or that kind of stuff. We're seeing people get stronger, especially because we try to emphasize the carnivore. Because the more I get into it, the more I found out about this thing called sarcopenia, which is what we all go through after age 50. We start losing muscle mass, and the only way to retain it is you got to eat a lot more protein, and you got to exercise, with strength training. So, I for the exercise, I realized I can't do it on my own, and it's hard to rely on caregivers because they've got a ton of stuff other going on. I can't just go, hey, go exercise them. So I hired a personal trainer, who's actually the husband of one of my caregivers. And he goes around to the homes, and we do strength training with weights and bands and things like that. I've one home that I hired a lady in Pennsylvania who does virtual exercises, because that home's about an hour away from my trainer. The other ones are much closer to him. So he does those, and the lady does them over there. But a lot of good feedback. I mean, it gives them something to do during the day. And that's where we get a lot of people moving from the beds to the wheelchairs, and the wheelchairs to the walkers. So, and when they can do that, and we go celebrate by taking them out, they get very motivated to do more of that. I got a little taste of freedom. I want more of that.
That's amazing. So let's talk about this carnivore thing. How first of all, how did you personally learn about carnivore? How did you implement that yourself in your own life? And then when did you start to think like, wow, we can actually make, for the residents who are willing to try this, we can actually make low carb or keto even just a little bit better? How did you start to implement it, not only with yourself, but with your residents?
Well, I've been a guy who likes to work out my whole life, but I'm one of those guys that everyone hates. I can eat tons of food and not gain any weight, which is good and bad. I can't gain any muscle either. But so I work out with weights, and I came across a podcast with this guy, John Jakish. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he has this system that's called X3. He's like a PhD in forget what it is, but it's basically body mechanics. And he first of all invented a machine that helps really alleviate the problems with osteoporosis. He found that gymnasts don't have osteoporosis, and the reason they don't is because their bones take lots of shocks, and that shocking, spurs more growth in the bones, and their bones are strong all the way to old age. So he developed a machine that basically shocks your bones, and it alleviates osteoporosis. So I like that he's studying, well, who are the people that are strong and how did they get strong and what's the mechanics of that. And so he came up with a system called the X3 system. And you basically, it's a bunch of bands that strengthen all ranges of your muscle movement. Like if you do a bench press, you have a very weak range where you're down by your chest, and you have a much stronger range. Like you can take a bar with a lot more weight and bring it down 6 inches and do that all day long. But if you bring it down to your chest, you're not going to be able to lift it off your chest. So he hit the bands as you go through the weak range, there's less tension because you haven't pulled it out. And as you get to the strong range, there's more tension. So you get to fatigue all ranges of your muscle. And I've actually gained 10 pounds of muscle, which I hadn't been able to do in 20 years of lifting weight. But part of his system is a carnivore diet. He's like, you can't just do it by weightlifting. You got to do the diet. And he had his book's called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. And so is cardio, which I thought, okay, I got to read this. But he has tons of studies in that book showing, and he's like, if a vegan diet was good, the best, I would recommend a vegan diet. I went through all the studies. This showed me what is good, eat meat. And so I'm like, well, I'll try it. And I've been thrilled by it. I mean, I feel I'm 55. I feel like I'm 25. I got all kinds of energy. I working all day long, working on this. My wife's like, you need to calm down a little. But I feel fantastic. So I thought this is great for our residents, and combining it with knowing that they get this sarcopenia thing, it seems like it would be a great fit to get some strength on their body, some muscle back, and improve their metabolism as well. And that's sort of why we went with the carnivore. That Bredesen protocol I talked about, it's much more a plant-based. It says use meat as a condiment on your plate rather than the main thing. This John Jacquish showed me studies of why that's not true. They said because the meat, your body at a certain point will turn that meat into carbohydrate and sugar, and that's what we're trying to avoid with the Alzheimer stuff. Well, that only happens in extreme deficits of carbohydrates. It's not, and once it's got where the body needs, it stops doing that. So it's not like meat's going to cause that problem. And it's still extremely low carb, obviously. So I thought, okay, well, let's do this. And I'm working with another company in Idaho called the Mind for All Seasons that's helping me implement the Bredesen protocol. They're all for me. They said old people need protein. And so it just seemed like a really good fit with the carnivore diet and everything we're trying to do.
Wow. So I've been telling all of my clients about doing this episode and how excited I've been to talk to you today. And one of them said something that I think most people would probably be thinking. It's like, okay, that sounds amazing. All of that sounds amazing. But my grandparents, they're not going to do that. They are very stubborn in their ways. They already know what they want to do. They're not going to change their diet at age 60 or age 70 or 80 at a home. What has your experience been with that as far as that goes?
I do have that. I mean, I don't have everyone here on meat, carnivore, but that's what yes, I get a lot of people who are like, my dad's 85. He likes ice cream. Leave him alone. Let him watch TV. Okay, fair enough. I'm trying to get my name out there of, hey, if your dad's like that, 85, wants ice cream, wants TV, great. I have 15 homes in this area that would love to have your dad, and they will do exactly what you want. So, it's one of those things, if you can't help people who don't want the help. So what I love about doing this in an assisted living home is I control the food. I control their routine. I don't want to make that sound authoritarian or anything, but if you're at home, it's very easy to go, I had a really good day. I was very good to my diet. I think I deserve a little break for that chocolate cake. Here, they can't. They, we don't have any chocolate cake in this home. Sorry. So that's why this seems like it's such a great fit for assisted living, is that we are in charge of their food, and if they really want something, and like birthdays, we splurge and cheat or whatever. Christmas is a little cheat thing, but day to day, we just don't have it in the home, and we don't go buy it. And we, if they say, well, why can't we have dessert? We'll break down and say, okay, well, here's some strawberries, here's some blueberries, without cream or ice cream or anything like that on them. So I agree, it's very hard. That's why I'm trying to do it in assisted living. And I'm also a big believer in, if people see results, they don't believe stuff when you tell them, but when they see people actually recovering and going home and suddenly getting their memory back, they're like, I'd like to try that. So it's sort of, you find the early adopters and then everyone will come along.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's amazing. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, I found you through a very popular carnivore podcast, Rivero, who I'm a health coach for Rivero. And, we've interviewed
Right.
Sean Baker, who hosted you as well. And it's a wonderful platform. I'm just thinking, like, you now have just talked to however many younger carnivores or people interested in the carnivore diet who probably all have parents where if this isn't a concern now, it's going to be a concern very soon. And so, going back like 7 years, like, yeah, you had to probably scrap to find whoever could fill your beds. But now it's like you can start to really specialize and be known as this person. Your business is going to blow up with people that want to send their parents to you. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah. And when I started telling people about this idea, they were like, well, if you make them better and they go home, then you won't have any business. And I said, if I make them better and go home, I'll have no end of business.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
Oh, no, I want my dad to decline, and I want to keep paying several $1,000s a month for him to do that. Versus he comes home, he lives on his own. I just go over to see him and have a great time with him, and we have no financial liability. Which one are you going to pick? So
Totally.
I think, the baby boomers are hitting assisted living age. There's a huge demand for assisted living. I'm full practically all the time. And you're right. We're starting to get to the point where, I'll take him, but I don't want her kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have lots of friends in this business, and I'd be more than happy to refer them to some really good homes that will take care of them, just not do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would highly recommend, and it doesn't take long. I mean, you as a carnivore coach, I'm sure you see changes within a month of doing it, or a couple weeks even sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's not like they're 80 and, you missed the boat. You should have started this when you were 50. No, as soon as you start it, by the time you're 81, you're going to be doing a whole lot better. So it's not like you have to be young to start this. I would recommend it, but you don't have to be.
Yep. I agree. I am
So
not.
yeah, all those people. Convince your mom and dad. I've convinced my mom and dad. I bought them one of those X3 systems,
Wow.
and they're working out with it now. And they're in their 80s, and they're living at home, and they're flying out because I just became a grandfather, and they just became great grandparents. They're going to fly out here in a couple of weeks to see their new great grandson. But that's the stuff people in their 80s and even in their 90s should be able to do.
That is so cool. I think about my own business, and like I'm really kind of not taking new people right now. Like, my business is pretty full. And I think back
Right.
to when I was doing nutrition coaching before, you could just get somebody on a recurring kind of thing. Let's see each other every 2 weeks. We'll do some behavior coaching because you probably screwed something up. You didn't journal, or you didn't eat your fruits and vegetables, or whatever. You can always find something to kind of blame the person. And now doing carnivore coaching, it's cool because I get to meet people all over the world. And we do like a session or like 2 sessions, and it's kind of it. Like, you don't really need to keep coaching these people. I would much rather see more people and help more people in a few sessions than keep somebody on this recurrence that doesn't fix anything.
Well, and that you're just making feel guilty.
Exactly.
It's hard. And our people aren't like eating 0 carbs a day. I mean, there's some carbs, there's